Jake Paul, Tyron Woodley.
Can you believe it?
I can. At one point I would say I couldn't, but watching you guys, there's nothing.
Welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we'll be looking at Jake Paul's reaction to Tyron Woodley's new sparring footage. Jake Paul, Jake Paul, Jake Paul. The younger one of the Paul brothers and the so-called problem child never misses a chance to get the spotlight focused on him. New day, new drama involving Jake Paul, and this time he's set to fight Tyron Woodley, the former UFC star. Mocking Tyron for his meager boxing credentials, Jake nailed his fight against Ben Askren, and now the YouTuber enjoys a 3-0 count. But we all know Tyron very well, and he won't miss this golden opportunity to take his lucrative purse back home, and so he's been training hard for his fight. We don't know whether it was just a show off or if it was purposefully done to scare the YouTuber, but Tyron's training footage is spreading like wildfire among his fans, and even Jake Paul couldn't resist reacting to it. In a freshly happened incident, Jake was accused of being scared of Tyron during a pre-fight photo shoot, as the YouTuber was found avoiding eye contact with his opponent. Tyron doubted that Jake, being scared, would back off at the last moment, which will eventually be a big loss of money for Tyron. So he mentioned in an interview that he'll reduce the number of sparring videos he posts on social media. Well, it seems that Tyron is in the mood to scare his opponent and excite his fans, as a very recent video of Tyron Woodley's hardcore training session is going viral on social media. Tyron is looking sharp and training ahead of his bout with Jake Paul, and fans now fear the YouTube star may have picked the wrong opponent. The 3-minute footage has left the fans with a single question: will Tyron claim his victory over Jake despite being defeated in several consecutive fights in the past? Jake Paul is set to face the former 5-time UFC champion and MMA legend Tyron Woodley, once hailed the greatest welterweight of all time, on 28th August in professional boxing bout. Tyron has consecutively lost several fights since the past 4 years, but appears to be energetic and a ready-to-fight beast in his recent training video. Jake, on the other side, has a professional record of 3-0, and the 24-year-old YouTuber and former Disney star is building up a list of famous but not so credible opponents. But a fight against Tyron looks to be his toughest yet. Jake has won all 3 of his boxing fights via KO or TKO, knocking out 2 of the 3 opponents within the first round, and now he plans to drown Tyron into deep waters, as he predicts a late stoppage victory after he exhausts Tyron with his cardio and output. So what was Jake Paul's reaction to Tyron Woodley's new sparring footage? Let's see, but before we get into the scene, make sure to like the video, as it really helps out the channel. Let's get right into the matter, as there is a lot to cover. Footage of Tyron Woodley going through gears and training for his bout with Jake Paul is going viral, and fans are adamant that the YouTube star has picked the wrong fight. The 39-year-old comes into the bout in completely contrasting form, having lost each of his last 4 UFC contests. Despite that poor recent run, he is still fully confident in making his experience count and handing Jake his first defeat in the ring when they collide later this year. And after watching a 3-minute YouTube footage that shows Tyron training for the fight, fans are now fearing the worst for Jake. In the footage, the ex-UFC fighter displays tremendous speed and power while hitting the pads, smashing a punch bag, and shadow boxing, which has convinced many that he will prevail over Jake on August 28th. The American champ seems to be undefeated as he's on his rise to the peak. We all know that Tyron has a great punching power, and obviously he's put a lot of dudes to sleep in his career. He's an elite striker, and he showcased prominent punching ability even on his losing streak in the UFC. So fans could be right that he can trouble Jake enough in a boxing match. One fan commented, "This man knows he cannot lose to a YouTuber." This video is one of the reasons why he is not called the chosen one for nothing. A viewer even commented, "Tyron is not messing about, going full savage mode. Jake picked the wrong fight." While some fans mentioned that Jake is going to have a hard time with the speed and the volume presented by Tyron. Tyron knows how to fight already, and fans are predicting that with a little tune-up, Tyron is knocking Jake out in the first round. Dana White, the UFC president, believes that Jake is making the biggest step up of his career so far by taking on Tyron, as he said on the Real Quick with Mike Swig podcast. Dana agrees that Tyron has punching power, as obviously he's put a lot of fighters to sleep in his career, but he claims that the recent Tyron doesn't look like the Tyron of the past that was putting everybody to sleep. We think that Dana is making this prediction because Tyron hasn't won a fight in 3 years. However, later on the podcast, Dana said that he appreciates Jake for at least stepping in there with a guy who can punch. Talking about Tyron, no doubt the 39-year-old veteran has belief in his boxing skills after years of training and sparring with world champions. His last UFC knockout win dates back to UFC 201 when he finished Robbie Lawler to win that welterweight belt. His last action-packed round against Vicente Luque made it clear that there is still gunpowder left in the chosen one. Are you enjoying our video? Before we get further into the video, then make sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on more amazing videos from us. Let's continue with the scenario. Jake beat his online rival, Anderson Gibb, on his boxing debut in January 2020 before following it up with a brutal KO of ex-NBA star Nate Robinson. After that, taking out Ben Askren, the social media sensation has emerged as one of the most polarizing figures in boxing alongside his brother Logan Paul. He was then ranked as the third highest paid boxer with only Canelo Alvarez and Anthony Joshua ahead of him in the list over the last 12 months. Jake nailed his fight against Ben Askren and later, mocking Tyron for his meager boxing credentials, got himself into a beef with the UFC champ. This trash talk and social beef eventually led to the upcoming boxing match between the two, and we all know Tyron very well. He never misses any chance to take his lucrative purse back home. We believe that he's aiming for the same this time, and so he's been training hard for his fight. Despite some poor results in the ring recently, a confident Tyron thinks he will come out victorious in the third round, and based on footage of him working on the pads amongst other drills, some fans believe Tyron will restore order and bring an end to Jake's hot streak. Jake, on the other hand, has won 3 consecutive fights in his boxing career. He is unafraid of Tyron, and we don't need proof for this, as everyone knows about the brawl he got into with Floyd Mayweather recently after stealing his hat. In an Impulsive podcast episode, Logan Paul, Jake's elder brother, asked him about his views on MMA fighters, to which Jake mockingly claimed that he isn't afraid of any MMA fighter, including Tyron. Jake has clearly been doing his homework on Tyron, who is not an endurance athlete by any stretch of the imagination. However, fans have warned Jake that Tyron is much better compared to his previous 3 opponents and would give Jake a tough competition. Jake posted on Instagram recently, "My pro fights haven't lasted long, but in sparring, I love taking my opponents into deep waters and drowning them with my overwhelming cardio consistency and precise punch selection. Soon we will see how well Tyron can swim." Tyron is one of the most powerful and explosive fighters in the world, but the former UFC welterweight champ has struggled with high volume, high output based fighters in the past, losing the pressure fighters in Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman towards the end of his career. Although Jake has already beaten a former MMA champion inside the ring, Tyron would seemingly bring a bigger challenge. But if Jake gets to output the MMA star, he'll set a bar for sure, and it would land him up to the new heights of stardom in the combat world. With that said, Jake's cardio is a mystery, given the YouTube star has never been taken into deep waters himself. And with that being said, it's time to end our video, but before that, we want to know how you feel about this. Did you like Tyron's training video? And do you think Jake is secretly training for the fight so as not to expose his tactics to his opponent? Let us know in the comments. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.